welcome to this week's installment of Community Classroom Yoga. Today we'll start on our backs with a blanket or a towel in the low back. You can just roll it up so it makes a nice little curve for the spine. We'll just lie back over it for a moment or so. Just feeling that the backs of the legs want to get nice and heavy to create a little bit of an arch for the lower spine as it comes over the blanket. And the shoulders can relax as well. Yeah, just take a first couple breaths or two. Let the hips soften. Yeah. After you've taken a moment to settle, plant the feet in front of the hips. The feet can step a little wider to the edges of the mat. The knees can come together. Yeah, so again, let the backs of the hips sink heavy so there's a nice contrast between the heaviness of the pelvis. A bit of lift in the low back. We're going to create a bit of a hip opening today and some good placement for the pelvis. And into that heaviness, you can drop the knees side to side, a bit like a pair of windshield wipers. The feet can stay a little wider. It'll help to get a bit of rotation inwards and outwards in the thigh bone into the hip socket. And you'll notice maybe that the knee that drops to the center, the hips are going to want to lift up on that side. So just more and more as they roll back and forth. Let the backs of the hips stay heavier. A little bit of a deeper breath in and out. Good. One more breath to each side. When you feel even in the middle, just pause for a moment. And then we'll draw the right knee into the chest, maybe holding the back of the thigh. And stretch the left leg along the ground. As the knee gets pulled into the body, the bum might start to want to curl off the ground. So keep that same shape of a little back bend over the blanket to help that the crease where the thigh meets the hip, that can deepen. As the knee gets drawn in, the hip can sink down a bit to help to create that lift over the blanket. Good. Full breath. As you exhale, you can release the right leg. Good. Take a moment, let the legs sprawl out, adjust to neutral, and then switch sides. You can draw the left knee in. As you draw the knee in, if the bum and hips want to curl up or find more of a rounded position, pause right into that hip crease. Just sink it down into the ground so that the hips stay heavy. You can draw the knee in. And this feeling maybe of wanting to press the backs of the pelvis into the ground a bit, to exaggerate a little bit of that arch. Good. One more breath or so. As you exhale, you can release the left leg long. Lie flat a moment. Again, adjust the hips over the blanket if you need to feel a bit more neutral. And just pause for a moment, take a big breath. Good. When you're ready, let's draw the left knee back into the chest. Same like we did the first side. As you draw the knee in, hold the back of the thigh and take that moment, let the hip crease soften. Now work to keep the backs of the hips nice and heavy to the ground a few times. Exhale, stretch your left heel up into the air as much as you can. And then inhale, you can just bend your knee again, heel to the hips. Just a few times. Exhale, stretch the leg up. Inhale, bend the knee. The more you stretch the leg up for the leg to want to get straight, the more the hips are going to want to lift up with it. So we'll let the back of the hips stay nice and heavy so they create a bit of an anchor, a place to stretch and extend from. Good. One more time. The next time that you stretch your leg straight, let's keep the leg a little straighter. The sense of actively wanting to stretch up through the top foot. Actively wanting to stretch out through the bottom leg. Good. Full breath. And as you exhale, let's bend the knee, release the leg. Again, just find yourself to neutral. Adjust a little bit on the blanket to pause. Take a moment. And as you're ready to, you can switch sides. Right knee can come into the chest. Hold the back of the thigh, take a moment, let the hips settle. And then a few breaths. Exhale, extend the heel to the ceiling. Inhale to bend the knee. The more you stretch the leg up, the more the hips are going to want to curl, the more the spine's going to want to flatten into the low back. So keep drawing down in the spine, extend up through the leg. One more time, and then let's keep it straight. Actively keep stretching up through the bottom heel. Actively keep pressing down and stretching out through the bottom leg. Good. Let's take one more breath or so here. And same as the other side. You can release as you exhale, lie flat a moment. Adjust to be a bit more neutral. Good. Take a breath. And then let's roll to our sides and we'll come up to all fours. As you find all fours, you can remove your blanket if you want, although you might just be so inclined just to unfold it a little bit so you have a little something for your knees. We'll find ourselves to all fours. Yeah. Inhale to back bend, exhale to round. A bit of movement in the spine. We'll do a fair bit of kneeling stuff, so you may want to keep that in the blanket there today, or towel. Good. As you tip the hips back and forth over the next few breaths, let's work that arch. Exhale, the hips are going to round. You can really round out and firm up the belly. In contrast, as you inhale, tip the hips forward, just like when we're on the blanket. There's that same positioning. The spine comes in, the groins come back. Good. One more breath. At the end of your next inhale, you can open the knees a little wider and sit the hips back into the heels for what's known as child's pose. Yeah, same like when you're on your backs. Let that groin crease draw back. The spine may feel a bit rounded initially, but it wants to move more into that back bend. And as you sink down, the whole length of the spine, just melting out of the hips as the hips sink back into the heels. Good. One more breath. And as you're ready to, let's find ourselves up to all fours. Good. Take a moment, no rush. Let's bring the right foot between the hands and find a lunge. Yeah, sink into the hips. If you find that your front knee comes way over the toes, you might scoot the foot forward or scoot the bottom knee back. And then just up and down in the hips. So press your left knee into the ground to lift the hips up a little, and then exhale, sink them forward. Eventually it'll be less of an up and down motion, more just this feeling as the back knee presses down, it'll give a bit of power to lift the hips. Then exhale, they can sink back into the earth. A bit more of an engagement in the hip flexor or the front of your left groin, and then release it. Good. One more breath here. The next time you inhale, let's come to a push-up on our knees. Yeah, as you find that push-up, start to make some circles. Hips can press back to the right and around and forward and to the left a few times. As you go side to side, a bit of a sense of really wanting to push the hips off one side, push the hips off the other side to get a bit more motion or some space for the thighs to open for the back of the hips, the lower spine. Good. One more time. And the next time that your chest comes forward as you inhale, let's switch sides. Left foot can find its way to the hands. Can adjust into your lunge a little bit. Adjust on your blanket or towel if you need to for your knee. Yeah, when you find that good distance, same thing, just start to pulse a bit. Root the back knee down to get active in the hip flexor, create a little lift. And then exhale, soften, and bow into it. If we think about like on all fours, inhale as we lift, there's a bit of that tipping, it creates a back bend. Exhale as we sink, there's a bit of that rounding, that wanting to tuck under. Good. One more breath, really stretch the knee forward. The next time you inhale, same thing, find your push-up, make some circles the other way. Exhale back to the left, forward around to the right. Yeah, feel how it is side to side. You might find that one hip's quite a bit tighter than the other. Good. Let's take once more around. And same as the first side. The knees can widen a little bit. The hips can sink back to child's pose as you exhale. It's feeling the hips are super heavy, almost like someone's on the back of them wanting to push them down. And into that, let the spine and chest soften forwards. As you do that, there could even be this feeling every breath of the breath wanting to kind of lift and expand the ribs, a bit of lifting and softening through there. Good. Let's take one more breath here. And let's come back up to all fours. You can find your left foot back up to your hands again. Good, so find your lunge. Same thing, take that moment to sink in about the same distance and then bring both hands to the inner foot. And walk them over to the right a little bit. Just a few times, roll your left knee in and out. Or if you think about the knee is straight on the center of your mat and then it goes on an angle to the side. Come straight to the center, angle to the side. Good. And so what I'll get you to do is the next time you roll your angle and open the knee out to the side, keep the knee open and then try to push the hips and thighs wide. So there's a sense the whole thigh bone wants to come off your mat. As you do that, the head and chest can bow a little bit. This feeling the whole left thigh eventually might hang right off the edge of the yoga mat as you bow over to the right side. Good. One more breath. And then like we did on the other side, come back up as you inhale. Find neutral, find a push up. Make those circles around in your hips. Pick a direction. We'll do the same on the other side after. And roll one way and the other. Good. One more time around. And the next time that your chest comes forward on your inhale, let's switch sides. Right foot can come up to the hands. Take a moment or two, no rush, find a good lunge distance, and then bring both hands to the ground to the inner left, or inner right foot over to the left. Yeah, and the same thing, just roll the knee open and closed. You roll open, you roll out to the outer foot a little bit. Good. And one more time. Same like the other side. The next time you roll the knee open, think about widening the hip as wide as the knee, like the whole hip and thigh and bum want to move off the edge of your mat. Into that, you can bow down. The sense of creating even some more space between the low spine and ribs coming one way, as the hip and thighs move the other. Good. One more breath here. The same like we did on the other side. Come back up to all fours, or more of a push up on the knees. Make those same circles in the opposite direction you just did. Yeah. Do move a bit. The circles may be a bit larger as the breath gets a bit deeper. Good. One more breath. And the next time that you sit your hips back again, let's widen the knees. We'll come back to child's pose. A nice place to just soften and disengage. Let gravity pull down for you. And feeling though maybe the body wants to lift and expand a little bit with every breath. Good. Let's take one more breath here. And next time you inhale, one more time, come up to all fours. Find that push-up distance, again with the hands and feet or hands and knees. But this time let's lift your hips high up into the air and we'll press them back to a downwards facing dog. Sort of a triangle looking position in the body. Good. Nice high lift in the hips. You can press back through one heel and the other. Move them a little bit if that feels good. Good. One more breath. When you're even through both legs, let's walk your feet up to the top of your mats. Little bend in your knees as you get there. Hang heavy for a moment. And then hands to the hips. Let's find a little bit of a back bend. You can rise up to standing. Good. Just a few times, sweep your arms overhead as you inhale. Exhale, they can lower. And to lift the ribs and spine up and out of the legs. Legs can stretch into the ground. Good. And the next time that your arms lift up as you inhale, exhale, bring them together into the chest and just bend into your knees a little. Good, so as you start to bend in your knees, the hands can come back to this position if you want, but let's start with our right hand to our left knee and then reach for the ground. You're going to get that exhale, you'll start to round. Inhale, find a back bend again. Exhale, you can reach for the ground. Inhale, find a back bend. When you feel that you get stuck, pause there, make a little back bend, and then start to twist. Hands can stay as they are, or your palms can come back together. What we want here, though, is to feel that we're not really rounded in the spine. Reach the groin crease back, and think about when the blanket was in the lower spine, and look to draw it into more of a back bend. Good. One more breath. As you inhale, untwist, soft knees, fingertips can hang towards the ground or right onto the earth. Pause a breath. And then hands to the hips, rise up to standing. Same as before. 3 times you can sweep the arms up and overhead. Each time a little bit more lift in the ribs, spine, and chest. Good. And this 3rd time you do it, let's bring the palms into the chest again and sit down as if you're sitting into a chair. Good. So you might start again right at the elbow, or you start at the outer hand. Either way, we're gonna twist left to right. If you feel that you're rounded in the spine, ease off till it feels like you could be more in a back bend or neutral, and then pivot from there. Hands can stay how they are, or they might come palms together. Either way, root the groins back and draw the low spine in, right from on the blanket when we had knees to chest initially. Good. One more breath. And as you inhale, untwist, bow forwards as you exhale, hang heavy for a moment. Good. Soften, and then bend your knees enough to step back to a downwards facing dog again. So feet about a push-up distance. Nice high lift in the hips. You can press down through one heel and the other. Same sense, the hips want to move back, lower spine wants to move into the body. Good. When you're even through both sides, let's drop back down to all fours and sink back into child's pose again. Yeah, just take a moment to soften more and more, as much as we want to get into the big dense stuff in the hips, and it takes a little bit more work to open, and also the big dense stuff and needs a little bit of extra time to soften. Good, full breath here, and then let's come up to all fours. Good, so as you find all fours, slide your right knee straight up to your hands so that you're right on the front of your shin. Good, and then take the knee straight out to the side a little bit. So the tendency when we come into this, especially if there's knee issues, the foot gets torqued up. It's not going to be so nice. You stay more on the top of the foot, and it can come out to the side. That'll protect the knee if you stay on the top of the foot. Sink the left foot back a little bit. Good, you'll get to a place where you start to feel a bit of a stretch. Walk your left foot a bit more to center. Good, and then just stay here if this is enough of a stretch. If this feels good, lift your back knee, lift your hips up a little bit, and see if you can't slide them back a little bit deeper. And then you stay here on the hands. If the hands feels good, if you want to come a little deeper, you can come down to the elbows. Wherever you find yourself, be it on the hands or the elbows, still this feeling of wanting to move the hips back, and especially right at that hip crease, right at the right hip. As you root maybe into the palms or into the elbows a little bit to sink into the hips, let that create a bit of softness, relax into the spine. Good. Let's take one more breath as is. As you're ready to, we'll come back up to all fours. As you find all fours, take your right leg out to the side, straight out, and then rise up to standing. on that left knee. Lift your left arm into the air and slide your right hand down the right thigh. Just a little bit of a side bend, reach it over. Good. Take a breath. And then as you inhale, come back to center, hands to the ground, come back to all fours, and either sink down into child's pose, hips to the heels, or you could lift up if you want to be a bit more active to that downwards facing dog, hips into the air. Good, either way, take a breath or two. And the next time that you inhale, find all fours again, and we'll switch sides. Slide your left knee up. As your left knee up, stay right on the shin, and then bring it out to the side. That'll help you to stay more to the top of the foot, so the toes can spread a little, protect the knee, then sink back into the rough shape. The opening this way will happen at the hip and not a torquing so much at the knee. Good, as you are, you can walk your back foot in a little bit. And same thing, sink the hips back a little bit, stay up on the hands, sink the hips back, maybe come down to the elbows. Either way, we'll take a few deep breaths here. The feeling of still wanting to draw the hips back, and of the lower spine wanting to move in. So it's a little bit of a tipping forwards in the pelvis, even though that may not be the case. That's what we'll look for. Good. Let's take one more breath or so here. Just like we did before. As you're ready to, you can come back up into all fours. Good. Take that moment and then stretch the left leg out to the side. You can come up to stand on the right knee and reach the right arm into the air. Lift up nice and tall and then side bend over to the left. Good. Inhale, come back through center. Find all fours, and then just sweep your feet in front of you. We'll come to seated. Good. As you find seated, let's stretch your right leg out in front of you. You can cross the left foot over the right knee. Yeah, sit up nice and tall. Bring the right fingertips behind you. They'll give you a sense to be able to create a little lift in the spine, or sorry, left fingertips behind you. Bit of lift in the spine. Use your right hand to help pull on the knee a little bit, and we'll just lift and twist for a few breaths. The more you twist open, the more you need to sink the left hip into the ground and lift up. The same sort of action done a few different ways. Good. One more breath or so. Even though the chest is turning back, have to be the sense of the lower spine still wanting to move forward towards the inner thigh, so there's this hugging in. Good, full breath. And then as you inhale, let's untwist. Stretch the left leg out in front of you, sit tall a moment. Good, and then we'll cross the other leg over. Right foot can cross the left thigh. The right hand can come behind you to create a little bit of lift for the spine. The left hand can pull the leg to help to draw you into it a bit. Not so much of a pulling to twist, just a bit of an anchor to move your left ribs forward. Good. In a sense, as you sink the hips down, the spines want to lift up super tall. There's some room to twist. Good. One more breath. And as you're ready again, let's untwist. Stretch the leg out straight. Good. Bend your knees a little bit by pressing the heels into the ground, and as your knees bend up, it'll get you again access to the groins and sitting bones. Lift your spine up. Start to walk your hands forward. You might find the knees, the shins, the feet. A little bit of a forward fold here. Just a few moments, bow down, whatever that looks like. One more breath or so here. And as you're ready, we'll sit up tall. You can find yourself on the back. Spin around if you guys want. Just lie flat a few moments. Good. Take a second or two as you get there. Just lengthen and sprawl out. And just for a moment or so, let's plant the feet closer to the hips. So like the blanket was there, press the hips down, arch the spine, like when it was really holding the curve, and then lift your hips up into the air. Good. Inner thighs a bit active as you press the pelvis up. Take a moment. And then as you exhale, release the hips to the ground. Let the soles of your feet come together. Let your knees open wide. Yeah, soften the groins. As much as the knees want to open wide, imagine the low back, the pelvis, the hips want to be just as wide as well. Good. One more breath. Let's draw the knees back together. Once again, press into the ground, lift the hips into the air. If you feel as though for Shavasana you want to take the towel or the blanket out that may have been on the mat, now is a good time to slide it out if that's the case. If it feels fine where it is, just let it be. Good. One more breath or so. And then as you exhale, let's sink the hips down. Hug both knees into the chest. Knees a little wider, just give them a bit of a squeeze in. And as you're ready, round up through the spine, forehead to knees. Good. Pull the belly away from the fronts of the thighs. Try to round your spine as much as you can. Good. One more breath or so. As you exhale, let's release the legs and stretch out long. Good. Take a moment or so, adjust. Let the back of the body, right from the back of the hips, the back of the thighs, sink heavy. A moment or so just to be a little light in the breath. And then even then, the breath can start to let go. And feel free to stay as long as this as you'd like, but this is where we end for our community classroom yoga. So namaste.